How's it going, everybody? Vegeta saying, what is good to all my Super Saiyan homies, here to bring you all sorts of Dragon Ball gaming content. If you enjoy the video, please consider hitting that thumbs up, subscribing, and turning on notifications so you don't miss out on any future content. That being said, today what we're going to do is we're going to look at the Zenkai Purple Broly, and we're going to give him the new Platinum equip that came out for purple movie characters. Now, the thing with this equip is, I did only get a, I did only get an S roll on it, but I was fortunate enough to get a perfect slot on the first roll. It's 10% out of 10%, which is really nice, so I'm going to be re-rolling it on the rest regardless, but I thought the rest was, pretty stable enough. 15%, 20% to blast attack. 20% is still pretty solid, even though it can go up to 30%. I thought that was still pretty respectable. So with that being said, we're going to run him on Super Saiyans for a couple of matches, and then after that, we're going to switch over to Powerful Opponent, and that is because, quite frankly, Swift has said it a bunch of times, and a bunch of other YouTubers have said it as well, but if you don't have an endurance unit or a revival unit, you're at a severe disadvantage in the meta right now. So I put him with Powerful Opponent because I didn't feel like running double purple with the Revival Gohan. So we did put him with Cell. This isn't the greatest setup. Powerful Opponent does suffer from lack of Zenkais, but all these units are pretty good. Well, not all of them. Everybody except the yellow Broly are pretty good. And even at that, I always have personally said he's a bit underrated. He's still okay. He's not amazing, but he's okay. So with that being said, again, we're going to hop into the PvP, and with a little bit of a twist. Instead of it just being regular commentary, we'll be doing post-commentary with fun facts about the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie. This is something I haven't done in a while, and it was something I just felt like doing because I found myself getting really frustrated with my commentary in the last couple of videos that I tried to do, and it's just the meta being at a point where the meta is so... You can't make one mistake, and it just feels like every Rising Rush gets guessed, every attack gets PV'd, so I don't know, I just felt like doing post-commentary would be a little less toxic, a little more entertaining content, and I always like to be informative here on the page, so yeah, hope you guys enjoy this. Haven't done it in a while, and I'm looking to bring it back. See you guys in a second. To start off our little fun fact list, I think this one kind of goes a pretty well-known fun fact for most people, and that is that the screenplay for the movie originally was supposed to be 3 hours long. However, after much consideration and interjection from the studios, it was decided that this was going to be far too long for the movie to actually be. So between Nagamine, the director of the movie, Shintani, the art director, or / animation director, I should say, and Toriyama, they analyzed the film together and decided which of the 3-hour screenplay should be dropped in favor of the 2-hour screenplay. This to me is pretty interesting when you think about it, though, because I don't think there's a single Dragon Ball fan in the world that would have minded this. Now, I think I can kind of understand the logic of you want to appeal to A, Western audiences, and B, you want to appeal to children, because those are, a very big majority of the Dragon Ball franchise. However, I would say this. Kids don't make up as big of a majority as they would think, and especially I think the ones who were going out to the theaters to go see Dragon Ball Super Broly when it was out in theaters. I don't think this was necessarily one of those releases that they needed to go nuts, kind of cutting back, trimming back the fat per se. But they did anyway, and we ended up, they ended up animating some of it, so people demanded to get those animated scenes that weren't in the theatrical release that were eventually added to the Blu-ray and DVD releases that came out later on. Following up on the hype train, and I truly mean following up on the hype train, one of the most fun facts about this movie is the fact that the hype for the film was so high that the tickets for pre-sales were sold out 5 months before the official release in Japan. I mean, we all know how popular Dragon Ball is over in Japan. It could essentially stimulate the Japanese economy if need be. So the fact that, almost half a year in advance from the release, the tickets sold out shouldn't come as a surprise to anybody. But again, it's still a fun fact, and, it's hype that, so many fans get so excited about Dragon Ball. I know I certainly do, and if I was over out there in Japan, I would have been, trying to get my ticket as quickly as possible. When it comes to character design, there are a lot of people that like to say that DBZ Broly is much better, and that really is just opinion-based at the end of the day. A lot of people think that the DBZ Broly is more badass. Some people think the DBS Broly is just, he's a little more human, or he looks a little more Saiyan. Whatever, it doesn't really matter. You're entitled to your own opinion, that's totally fine. But The one thing that I do think is really cool that links the two of them, specifically in their character design, is the fact that when we look at Broly's scars on his body, DBS Broly this is, these are references to his defeats in the original Broly movie and in Broly the Second Coming. You have the one scar on his upper left of his abs, and then you have the giant cross-shaped scar on his left pec, and these are, once again, references to where he was hit once by Goku, and then where his heart exploded out of him in Broly the Second Coming. So this to me is just, you know, I don't know, this is just such a cool detail to see coming back to it, and obviously, you know, Toriyama is so good at stuff like this, just gathering little details from, while yes, he did do a lot of the design work for a lot of the original DBZ movies, he wasn't the one who wrote all the original DBZ movies, so he's not technically the creator of Broly, so it's nice to see, despite him, you know, taking his own spin, his own flair on the character, you know, besides design-wise in terms of writing, that is to say, he still included these little design homages to the original character. It's just something that I've always found really cool. So, I guess this is a less fun fact because it does, it kind of affected one of the voice actors, which is pretty unfortunate at the end of the day, but it's kind of funny when you say it out loud or when you read it. Like, I certainly chuckled when I read it, which I shouldn't have. It's kind of rude of me. But Ricardo Brust, the voice actor for Broly in the Latin American dub, he lost his voice for several weeks after recording the film for doing all the screams for Broly. And this just makes a lot of sense, because it really just feels like all he ever does is scream. Like, when you find him in the load-in screen on Legends, he literally just screams. Like, everybody else is like, Dragon Ball, Legends, and he just like, Aah! So, this to me is really, really funny that, like, you know, the voice actors, it does take a toll on them. It shouldn't be funny. It should be, you know, kind of like, oh man, that's kind of unfortunate that, you know, the artist has to suffer for the art, but I don't know, there's something about the character that always screams all the time. At least somebody was affected by it. You know, it seems like he just can scream endlessly into the void. No one's ever been affected by it one way or the other. Going back to the time span of this movie, or I guess time length of the movie, you know, when we were talking originally about how it was 3 hours long, one thing that becomes really interesting about this movie is it is actually the longest Dragon Ball movie in franchise history, clocking in 1 hour and 40 minutes. And it technically does clock in as the second longest if we're going to include the extended version of Resurrection of F, which clocks in at 2 hours and 10 minutes. But there's all sorts of, you know, it's the extended version, and then you could also argue that if you extend Broly, it's long. There's all sorts of different arguments and whatnot. So we'll say it is one of, if not the longest in the series, because, you know, the extended version isn't the original version that was released. So in the original cut released in the theatrical version, it is the longest of the Dragon Ball films. That's what we'll say. I guess that's the fairest way to put it. One of my favorite things when it comes to Dragon Ball is where the names stem from. I always find Akira Toriyama's food puns to be really, really funny. However, they're not always like English food puns. A lot of people like to think that they're always just going to be an English food pun, but no, that's not the case. For example, Krillin's name stems from the word for chestnut. This ends up being a play on the fact that Krillin is bald and he kind of looks like a nut, and so I've always found that to be really funny. But one of the ones that we see in Broly, obviously Broly is for broccoli. However, we have Chilai, which is also seen as Chirai, if we're looking at some of the Japanese, I guess, transliterations of it. And this is the Japanese name for the lychee fruit, which is pronounced Raichi in Japanese. So it's kind of, you flip the two syllables around and you get Chirai or Chilai. So yeah, that's where that comes from. And once again, we have a lovely little food pun. However, this one is not an English food pun as opposed to broccoli and Broly, which is, you know, very straightforward and obvious. So, you know, it's just kind of fun to see the different little name tricks that Akira Toriyama uses throughout the series. So this one is no different. So when it comes to predictability and Easter eggs and stuff like that, the Dragon Ball franchise, it seems like they like to have a lot of fun. They like to put out little teasers, Easter eggs, all sorts of different things for people to try and figure out what's going on with the movie. And so, or not with the movie, but it may be the game, the movie, the series, the manga, it doesn't matter. They tend to put out these little Easter eggs for people to try and figure out what's going on with the franchise, and for Dragon Ball Super Broly, it was no different. They re-released the 3 movies. They re-released the Dragon Ball Special for Bardock, the father of Goku. They re-released Broly, Legendary Super Saiyan, and they re-released Fusion Reborn, and these hinted at Bardock, Gogeta, and Broly all appearing in the movie. So that was pretty cool to kind of see that, you know, they had all this stuff hinted for what the movie was going to be. Now, this can actually also translate now to 2021 right now, because or actually throughout this current month going on over in Japan, they're going to be re-releasing the 3 Dragon Ball Super movies. Or I guess, well, because, you know, Resurrection of F and Battle of Gods are technically DBZ movies, but the 3 movies that take place in the Dragon Ball Super timeline, so Resurrection of F, Battle of Gods, and Dragon Ball Super Broly, in the correct order, obviously, are being re-released over in Japan. So there are a lot of people assuming that we will get some sort of trailer or announcement for the 2022 Dragon Ball movie that we are going to be getting. Now, there are also a lot of people theorizing that this means, because if you looked at those 3 that were re-released back when Dragon Ball Super Broly came out, those hinted at Bardock, Broly, and Gogeta. The 3 that are coming out right now, they're just going out successively in order. They go straight out in the order of which, you know, the story goes. Battle of Gods, Resurrection of F, and then we've got Dragon Ball Super Broly. So what this could be hinting at is that it could be hinting at the movie is going to be another canon movie piece, and we're going to be seeing the moral arc adapted into movie format, which I know there's a lot of mixed opinions and whatnot, but I can personally be really excited for that, because if we get the same level of quality, budget, and animation that we got for Dragon Ball Super Broly, the moral arc is going to look absolutely phenomenal. So I'd be very excited to see that. Yeah, I don't know. That's just kind of my shot in the dark. I could very much be wrong, but if we're looking at the writing on the wall, if we're looking at the hints that they put out for DBS Broly, I'd like to think that it's a somewhat, somewhat, I guess, valid point. I don't know. I don't feel like I'm throwing spaghetti against the wall. You can let me know if I am in the comments, though. Speaking of the manga and going into the moral arc, what's actually really funny is, for me personally, DBS Broly does make it into the manga, but for literally 1 page. There's 1 page in the manga that is a very nice drawing of Goku, Vegeta, and Broly kind of battling as one panel, and then on the top we have Frieza talking to Berry Blue. But that's the only panel we get. We get a brief little explanation of what happens. But this does validate that DBS Broly is canon, not only in the anime itself, but in the manga. So, yeah, I don't know. I find it really funny, though, that it just gets the 1 singular page. Like, it goes... You go into chapter 42, you read on page 32 is the last page of the Tournament of Power, and then you go to page 33, it's DBS Broly, and then page 34 starts the moral arc. Like, you get 3 arcs in 3 pages, and that to me is just, I don't know, I think it's a really funny detail. But it does, again, it canonizes in both timelines that DBS Broly does happen, and I guess the only reason I've mentioned both timelines, for lack of a better term, is because there are some differences when it comes to the Goku Black Saga and also the Tournament of Power as well. However, both are considered to be canon, which is another nutshell that I'm not going to tackle in this video. One of the most popular animators when it comes to the Dragon Ball franchise is Yamamuro, and when it comes to this guy, he is an absolute legend. However, his legend started with Dragon Ball Z Broly, the Legendary Super Saiyan, and this was his first time being an animation supervisor in the Dragon Ball franchise, as well as, you know, he was doing work on the Android Saga as well. But he said in an interview that he wasn't particularly fond of the movie, and he was quite disappointed by the fact that even though he was responsible in helping to create Broly, he wasn't really called to intervene with the finished product that was DBS Broly. The only other negative thing I'll say in this video, and this is a bit disheartening to see as well, is that Takeo Koyama, who was responsible for writing all of the DBZ movies, and I guess you could say is responsible for all the personalities of all the characters in there. Because while he didn't draw all the characters, Toriyama was still responsible for a good amount of the designs when it came to the DBZ movies. He is responsible for all the personalities of the characters in the DBZ movies. So with that being said, DBZ Broly is included in all of that, and he never actually ended up seeing Dragon Ball Super Broly, because he didn't feel that this Broly was a fearsome enough character. He didn't think it was the same character that he had designed. I want to correct myself before I get into such deep water. It's not that he never saw the movie. I don't know whether he did or didn't see the movie. He didn't end up going to the premiere. That's what I should have said. He never ended up going to the premiere of DBS Broly. When it comes to, I guess, I don't want to say personality, but backstory rather, this Broly does have one interesting tidbit that does make him different from his DBZ counterpart. As opposed to being around the same age as Goku, DBS Broly is actually closer to the same age as Vegeta, which is pretty interesting, and thus explains kind of like King Vegeta's fear for the power levels and whatnot, wanting to ban him off of the planet. So yeah, it's just kind of interesting. It's just an interesting little adjustment, interesting little detail that they did. One that I personally like a lot, that made me feel a little bit more connected to DBS Broly's backstory, and why I personally like him a bit more than DBZ Broly. But that's just me personally, and you are all entitled to your opinion. You are all allowed to enjoy whichever incarnation you so choose. As opposed to DBZ Broly, who's just an overly powerful Saiyan monster, for lack of a better term, DBS Broly kind of serves as a bit of a foil to Goku. The two of them have a lot of similarities when it comes to being, their backstories as characters. Both of them are powerful yet gentle-hearted Saiyans who value friendship over, power and destruction. On top of this, they both grew up in the wilderness and were trained by a father figure who they cared for greatly. And finally, both of them acquired their Super Saiyan forms after one of their loved ones was killed by Frieza. Now granted, in the case of Goku, this was a friend, being Krillin, and in the case of Broly, this was his father, being Paragus, but again, it's a powerful moment in which they both lost a loved one to such a powerful villain. So to me, this is just another little detail in terms of backstory that makes DBS Broly so interesting. While his grievances now are more so with Vegeta as an extension of King Vegeta, as opposed to being upset with a crying infantile Goku, there are also similarities that allow them to relate to one another, and only brings that much more validity to Goku's comment of, "You're not a bad guy, I can tell." With that being said, that's going to wrap up all the fun facts for the video. I think it's going to come in just short for all the PvP, so please enjoy the rest of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed and found this to be somewhat interesting. I hope that they were fun facts for somebody. And yeah, peace out. I will see you guys in the next one. Once again, please enjoy the rest of the PvP. Peace.
Yeah!